Rebecca Rubin, welcome back. Thank you for killing it at the Venice Film Festival. I think you started filing stories the minute you got there and probably as you were flying out to head back to New York.
I did actually file my last story from the airplane.
Welcome to Daily Variety, your daily dose of news and analysis for entertainment industry insiders. It's Monday, September 8th, 2025. I'm your host, Cynthia Littleton. I am co-editor-in-chief of Variety alongside Ramin Satuda. I'm in LA, he's in New York, and Variety has reporters around the world covering the business of entertainment. In today's episode, we'll talk with Rebecca Rubin, Variety's box office chief, on the surprisingly strong opening for The Conjuring, Last Rites. And we'll hear from Variety's Jazz Tangcay and Michael Schneider backstage from Sunday night's Creative Arts Emmy Awards. Before we get to that, here are a few headlines just in this morning that you need to know. What's going on with Howard Stern? It sounds like he's making another deal with SiriusXM. But in getting there, he's having a lot of fun trolling fans, media, and this time he brought Andy Cohen along for the ride. The Late Show with Stephen Colbert won its first ever Emmy Award last night for directing. It's about time. The trio behind the podcast Smartless, Jason Bateman, Will Arnett, and Shawn Hayes, will bring their thing to the Hollywood Bowl on November 15th. They're going to have a mass taping of their hugely popular podcast. My colleague Chris Willman has the scoop. You can find all these stories and so much more on Variety.com right now. Now we turn to conversations with Variety journalists about news and trends in show business. If it's Monday, we're talking box office with Rebecca Rubin, our senior film and media reporter. She breaks down the big numbers for The Conjuring Last Rites. She dug in and found that this opening sets a new record for distributor Warner Brothers and the industry itself. Rebecca Rubin, welcome back from the Venice Film Festival where you killed it.
Thank you for having me.
And you came back to some big box office news, even though we had predicted a couple of sleepy weekends here until the fall prestige season really kicked in. But Warner Brothers and The Conjuring had other plans.
It was definitely a very strong start to the fall season. And heading into the weekend, independent tracking services were suggesting that Conjuring The Last Rites was going to have a debut of $50 million to $60 million, which already would have been the best in the franchise. And by the time Sunday rolled around, those numbers were even larger than expected. And the movie ended up opening to $83 million domestically and $187 million globally. And it set a ton of records for the franchise and also for horror as a genre.
Do you think there was desire to see a horror movie or desire for this franchise that people have now grown up with?
I think it's a little bit of both. There was definitely some pent-up demand to go to the movies because there hasn't really been a big new blockbuster in some weeks now. But there's also some great word of mouth, and I think that points to goodwill towards the franchise.
Was there anything in the demographics or the regional numbers that surprised you?
The Conjuring movie did very well in IMAX. It made $14 million globally, and about $9.4 million of that was from the domestic market, and that accounted for 11.3% of the North American opening weekend. And that was the biggest opening weekend for IMAX ever for the horror genre. And what's significant about that is IMAX has been super popular since the pandemic, because it really makes people feel like there's a reason to leave the house. But we don't see that as much with horror movies.
IMAX has been a theme of the summer, as we've been discussing. You mentioned in your story that it's got scary good profit margins, given this start and what it costs to make.
Yeah, I'm sure people don't recognize this, but the Conjuring universe is actually the highest grossing horror franchise in box office history. Across 9 films, they have made over $2.3 billion. So I think this might be the most expensive one. It cost $55 million, but most of its predecessors cost way less than that, which means they're making a ton of money on these movies. And in the lead up to The Last Rites, they were billing it as the final installment in the Conjuring world. But given these numbers and how profitable this franchise has become for Warner Brothers and New Line, I think it's safe to say that probably won't be the case.
This has been quite a summer for Warner Brothers. This notches another successful opening in their belt.
This is the 7th consecutive movie for Warner Brothers to open above $40 million. They are the first studio in history to ever achieve that consistent a streak. And it's also notable because they had a pretty rocky start to the year as well as end to 2024. Joker Folie à Deux was a huge bomb, and then they missed the mark with Mickey 17 and Alto Nights, which were both pretty expensive movies for the genres they hailed from. And so it makes this rebound even more significant. And that's been coming from a Minecraft movie, Sinners, Final Destination, Superman, and then just a few weeks ago, Weapons.
I love Rebecca. You are such a good analyst, just like the sports experts on ESPN. You can pull out the streaks and the facts, but that is an interesting factoid. Is there anything you've seen that they're doing differently or unusual to help drive these outcomes?
Well, what's pretty interesting about their slate, both this year and next year, is that they have really put an emphasis on filmmaker-driven original fare, and that is what's been considered the riskiest kind of movie to put out. And so there was definitely a lot of speculation about what Warner Brothers' year was going to look like, and people did not think that they were going to be as successful as they were. And I think part of that is having leaned into new ideas, and with a movie like Sinners or Weapons, those were both original horror films that turned into huge sleeper hits. But what they've done successfully is leaning into directors who have really strong visions, and they're hoping that that's going to be the driving factor in the marketing and getting people to come to see these movies.
Credit to Pamela Abdy and Michael DeLuca, the heads of Warner Brothers Pictures. Studio chiefs get a lot of scrutiny when the box office doesn't deliver, so by all rights, they should also get credit when it does. I noted in your story that veteran box office analyst Paul Dargarabedian called it a, quote, a morale boost, end quote, for Hollywood to see these pleasantly, surprisingly strong numbers. And I think that says a lot for where the film business is.
This is such a momentum-based industry, and so when times are tough, there's always a concern that will feed off of itself. And if people aren't going to the movies, they aren't seeing trailers for the other new movies. And so on the flip side, when something turns into an unexpected hit, there's hope that momentum will continue. And that actually looks to be the case. Next weekend, Sony is opening a new Demon Slayer movie, and keep your eye on that one because it's already been a huge hit in Japan, and there is speculation that it's going to be another huge opening weekend at the domestic box office. So we could have a very strong start to September.
In addition to the year of IMAX, this has been the year of anime. But was there anything else this weekend that stood out?
Disney put the filmed version of Hamilton, which was a taping of the Broadway musical, in theaters, and it opened to $10 million from around 1,800 theaters. And that's a pretty impressive figure because the Hamilton movie has been available to watch on Disney Plus for almost 5 years now. They were supposed to put it in theaters actually in 2021, and then when the pandemic hit, they decided to put it on their streaming service a year earlier in 2020. And so for people to go out and see that when they could just as easily watch it at home speaks to the communal experience that people are craving. Disney was touting this as a 1-week limited engagement, but I think as long as audiences keep showing up, they'll probably keep it in theaters a bit longer.
Oceans rise and empires fall. Rebecca, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
And now, listeners, we wanted to bring you a sense of what it's like to cover the Creative Arts Emmy Awards. These are held the weekend before the main Emmy event that will be carried live next Sunday night on CBS. And these are the non-televised television awards. These are the kudos for the arts, crafts, technical, and crew work that is the backbone of every TV show and every movie. The Creative Arts Awards don't get as much attention, and they don't attract as much live news coverage. Variety is there in force, of course. I covered night one with my Variety colleague Jazz Tangcay, who is our senior artisans editor. Television editor Michael Schneider joined Jazz for night two on Sunday. Here's our conversation recorded just before Sunday night's show began at the Peacock Theater in downtown LA. Michael Schneider and Jazz Tangcay, thanks for joining me.
Hey.
Hello. Well, you two are troopers joining me backstage from the third floor of the Peacock Theater, night 2 of the Creative Arts Emmy Awards. I had the pleasure of covering night 1 on Saturday with Jazz. Here as we speak, I am in the Rose Bowl parking lot awaiting my first ever Oasis concert, but I wanted to check in with you. We got our first taste of Emmys. They handed out a boatload of them. Mike, I'll start with you. What did you gather from last night's wins?
I mean, it's looking good for the studio. That show, which won 9 awards just in creative arts, is poised now to be the most winning comedy of all time, beating The Bear, which just broke the record last year with 11 wins. If they win at least 2 next Sunday, then they'll tie The Bear. There's a chance they win 3, though, and they're the new record holder.
What really surprised me last night was the Penguin, which took home 8 trophies. I'd expected it to take home the prosthetic win for Mike Hill and his team because, let's face it, the prosthetics on the Penguin were amazing, but it also took VFX. And yeah, it was just pretty amazing to see that show also dominate.
Of course, Severance is the top of the leaderboard right now with the most nominations going in to Emmys, and it came away with 6 very healthy wins, including guest actress in a drama for Merritt Weaver. So it certainly didn't go home empty-handed, but it was interesting to see the Penguin early on jumped out and paced the race. I always enjoy covering the creative arts because it really is the best warm-up. You get a sense of where things are leaning.
I'll say one other thing that fascinated me is this year, it really is all about the studio versus Hacks, and then, of course, Severance versus The Pit. And if you see the guest actor categories in both drama and comedy, it was split 50-50. Severance won 1, then The Pit won 1, Studio won 1, and then Hacks won 1. So going into the big ceremony next week, it is a race between those shows.
There was a really incredible moment when Jessica Legaggi, who is a cinematographer, also directed an episode, and she made Emmy history by becoming the first woman to be nominated in both those categories. Her win last night puts her as the first woman to triumph in cinematography for drama 1 hour. It's crazy to think that no woman has ever won in that category till last night. So that was a beautiful moment. I spoke with her backstage, and she's like, this was a dream that I wanted for a long time.
It was a great moment. And what I noticed was she didn't lean in too hard. I thought actually she played it kind of cool. And she did tell an anecdote that was so telling, which was she said early in her career, she had worked with a man who had told her that a woman will never do 2 things, become an F1 driver and be a good cinematographer. And she said, that certainly motivated me. We also heard from Giancarlo Esposito, who came on even before the awards had been given out. He was a presenter. He came on and was asked about the state of the industry and the state of Los Angeles, both things very challenged. And we're going to cue up some clips of that. The other thing that I love about the creative arts is Julianne Nicholson winning for Hacks, Shawn Hatosy winning for The Pit. The guest star Emmy often goes to working character actors, people that have worked through so many shows and movies. When they get this moment in the spotlight, it's really meaningful. Shawn Hatosy was certainly in that category, and we're going to hear a couple of clips from him from last night. Well, good luck. Hope you have some great backstage moments, some heart tuggers. Before we go, Mike, any dark horses, anything you're watching for the big show Sunday night, September 14th?
I mean, the big thing that we're all keeping an eye on is that Pit versus Severance SmackDown. So it's real, and it's going to be down to the wire.
Mike, Jazz, thank you so much.
Thanks, Cynthia.
So much.
Enjoy Oasis.
We both have FOMO right now.
Well, as promised, here's a clip from Saturday night backstage at the Creative Arts Awards. Shawn Hatosy won Guest Actor in a Drama series for his work on HBO Max's medical drama, The Pit. Hatosy spoke from the heart about how the role that won him his first Emmy came in at a lean time in his career. He also spoke about what it means to be able to film the Warner Brothers TV series from John Wells Productions in Los Angeles.
I know what a set feels like in Los Angeles. I know what experienced crews, how they work, how they operate. And in many cases, the people that I'm meeting the carpenters I'm meeting, the transportation captains I'm meeting, the makeup people, the hair people, everything. They're not, this isn't, they cut, it's a legacy business. It's passed on. So that's the reason that you see some of the best in the business working here and doing it. So even more so, this recognition and the fact that this show is not a very expensive show. It shoots right here in Los Angeles. And so I think that there's a chance that maybe some other people that make these decisions will see the success and find a model like it so that we can employ a lot of people in Los Angeles.
And Giancarlo Esposito, the great star of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, he also had a lot to say backstage at the Peacock Theater about Los Angeles and the entertainment industry and what should be done to help the film business in particular.
What's the solution? I think part of the solution is to look at the model in a new way, is to look at how we make film and what we charge for ticket prices in the movie theaters in a new way. We're crying about how streaming has sucked away people going to films and having a social experience together, but we're not doing anything about it. And I love that we could stream and sit home and do that. I'm taking nothing away from that. But what about just offering a weekend in a movie theater for the big companies who have more than one for free? See, the ticket price is the problem. Or one weekend, all movies are free to reignite people's passion for film. Get them in the theater, charge for the popcorn, charge for the soda, but the ticket price is free. And then continue to allow parents to pay for their ticket. Children under 10 are free. Then you get people who are seeing a little give back. Like, we got to give back to get, right? We have the ability. We have the artisans. We have the filmmakers. We have the directors, and we have the money. So why not give and take a little bit and bring some enthusiasm back into the theaters so we can all see movies together again?
As we close out today's episode, here's a few things we're watching for. Season 5 of Only Murders in the Building drops on Hulu on Tuesday. Also on Tuesday, Variety's John Hopewell and crew are off to the San Sebastian Film Festival on the northern tip of Spain. Wednesday brings the publication of Variety's TV Producers Impact Report. Emily Longaretta will be on later in the week to discuss. Starting today, CNBC's Squawk Box is celebrating its 30th anniversary. They'll have a CEO-packed lineup this week, including Mario Gabelli, Ted Leonsis, Michael Rubin, David Rubenstein, Lloyd Blankfein, and more. Before we go, congrats to Justin Manfredi, who has joined Lionsgate as Executive Vice President of Worldwide Television Marketing. He spent the past 4 years at Apple TV+. And a gridiron salute to my great Variety colleague Mark Malkin. Mark got to serve as coin toss captain for the LA Rams game at SoFi Stadium on Sunday. He was saluted by Cedars-Sinai and the American Heart Association for sharing his journey through heart surgery earlier this year with readers. You can find that beautifully told story on Variety.com right now. Thanks for listening. This episode was written and reported by me, Cynthia Littleton, with contributions from Rebecca Rubin, Michael Schneider, and Jazz Tangcay. It was edited by Aaron Greenwald. Sticks, Nicks, Hick, Picks, please leave us a review at the podcast platform of your choice, and please tune in tomorrow for another episode of Daily Variety.
Slowly walking down